Yo, what's going on, Logic students, for the summer of 2020, I think this is? I probably shouldn't even said that because I might have made it reuse this one day. But anyway, thank you for taking the Logic course this summer. It's going to be a short course, but we're going to try to get through it. And I'm looking forward, to being able to push you a little bit, expand your mind, challenge you in ways you might not have been challenged, and allow you to obviously receive your general education R or M credit, right? So thank you again. I think it's 7 of you, so thank you. So listen, you may remember my email and my initial video. I just gave you a quick background of what we'll be doing. I'm just going to jump right into lecture 1, right? And so in your reading for this section, we're just going to get into the nuts and bolts. What is an argument? Engaged in the distinctions of arguments, and then that'll be it for this lecture. I'll probably take about 45 minutes. So again, I am Julius Bailey, and I thank you for joining this quick intro to logic video on the nuts and bolts of logic. Logic, as we know, right? And so if you have your notes, please get your notebooks now or pause the video, right? Again, logic. You ready? Logic is a branch of philosophy, right? What I mean by branch is a section, is an area, is one of the core areas of philosophy, right? This is a philosophy course, and logic is the branch, the force, one of the areas of philosophy that concerns itself with good or bad, correct or incorrect reasoning, right? And so the first thing you need to know is that logic is a branch of philosophy, right? And so it concerns itself with good or bad, correct or incorrect reasoning, right? That's what logic does, right? And so we want to know, how are you reasoning? How are you going about the process of analyzing that which you're claiming or that which you want to discern, right? And so logic is that process, right? And so as you imagine, a lot of us consider ourselves logical, right? And let's just be real, most of us ain't, right? You in conversation with your friends, a lot of you come to understand how your friends communicate, and you'll say, oh, well, I get what you're meaning to say, right? Or I think I know what you're saying. It ain't like they said it. It ain't like they even sort of say anything that really to the objective ear would make sense. But you give a little charity to your friends, right? And sometimes even in common conversation, right? People will say things and you scratch your head in the back of your mind that don't make sense. But then because you want to keep your friendships, because you don't want to argue with your honey, you just say, yes, darling, I understand. But in most cases, you don't. Because in most cases, I would argue, in probably 85% of your communications, most people don't know what the hell they're talking about. And logic is going to be that particular study in which we get to understand if people just out here flapping them gums, or they actually have an argument to make. So, if we define logic as that branch of philosophy that concerns itself with good, bad, correct or incorrect reasoning, right, then we need to understand that logic's chief concern, right, what it's chiefly concerned about, its chief concern, right, is arguments. Right? So, definition logic, definition arguments, right? So logic's chief concern are arguments. So what is an argument, right? An argument is not, you and your mama screaming at each other from upstairs or downstairs, or you on the phone with your ex about, you just make me mad, piss me off, or whatever. That ain't an argument, right? That's a disagreement. It may be a quarrel. You may be engaged in an argument, But we don't mean argument in that sense. Let's just put it that way, right? We're talking about something a little bit more formal, something more organized in terms of structure, right? And so logic, that's one thing to understand too. Logic is really about structure, right? It's about the way in which certain premises and conclusions that we'll get into in a minute, certain statements and propositions are organized, right? And so if logic's chief concern are arguments, then what is an argument, right? Now, argument, we should probably define it as a set of propositions, right? What do I mean by a set? I mean, it has to be at least two. Can't be one. One line ain't no argument. Go wash the damn dishes. That ain't no argument, right? A set of propositions in which one statement lays claim to something and another statement or statements justify that claim. All right? So again, argument is a set of propositions, right, or statements in which one lays claim and the other or others justify that claim, right? So one lays claim and one justifies the claim. The one that lays claim, we call that the conclusion. The one or ones that justify the claim, we call that a premise or premises. Right? So again, logic. Logic is that branch of philosophy, right, that concerns itself with good or bad, correct or incorrect reasoning. Logic's chief concern, its main concern, has to deal with arguments, right? How are arguments formulated? How are arguments created, right? And then thus, how good or bad, how correct or incorrect is that argumentation, right? What is an argument then, right? An argument is not one statement. It's not go to the store for me. It's not I hate the president. It's not I want some Kool-Aid. That's not an argument, right? An argument is a set of propositions, right? And even the ones that I said, some of those, I forgot what I said now, but even we'll get into that distinction here in a second. But even it was a set of propositions in which one statement justifies another statement. The statement that is being justified, or the claim issue at hand, right? Spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America, right? That's a claim. Now, that's not an argument. It's just a proposition. But it's a proposition that what? Can either be true or false, right? It could be true that spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America. It could be false that spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America. That's what a proposition is. A proposition is a statement that can be true or false, right? Now, when you put that proposition and say, wait a minute, but you just can't say that. You have to tell me why you said that. How do you justify the fact that spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America? Well, the way we justify that is through another proposition or propositions. It may be one. I may give you 20 reasons. I don't need just one. But all you really need is one. But I may give you 3, 4, 5 reasons and then give me justification to why I say that spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America. The claim, the issue, in this case, spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America, is called the conclusion. The statement or statements that justify the claim, pick one for yourself. If we had a class, I'll say, somebody in class give me a reason that somebody might argue that spring 2020 is the worst spring in the history of America. I'll pause. I'll let you think of one. Good answer. No. So look, so maybe you say, because I was unable to be with my friends at school, because I was unable to take Professor Bailey's class face to face where I can kick it with him and have fun, that may make it the worst spring ever. Those are some of the reasons that we use to justify the conclusion. We call that statement or statements that justify the conclusion, we call that or those premises, right? So again, an argument is a set of propositions or statements in which one lays claim where there's an issue made and the other statement or proposition justifies that claim. The statement that lays claim is called a conclusion. The statement or statements that justify the claim is called a premise or premises. All right? You with me? So in your notebook or in your thought tree, you should have in your mind, as recap moving forward, what is logic? Your friends say, hey, I'm taking a logic class. Oh, girl, you logic? I mean, you're logical. You say, well, I thought I was until I took this class. Because I realized logic is more formal. Yes, there's an informal area that we'll get into, but logic is more formal. Logic really wants to know about the way in which, the quality of my analyzation, the quality of my reasoning. Is it good, bad, is it correct, incorrect? Girl, it don't matter if it's good or bad. It's just how you say it. If you convince people, well, then that's just the art of bullshit. Art of persuasion. Rhetoric. That's something to study. We've had centuries. Much of what philosophy was, a lot of the Greeks were rhetoricians. Right? People were in the public square trying to convince people something. But they convinced people using what? Mainly arguments. Not just how loud you are, not just how much money you have, not just how much influence you have over somebody else, but how well are you able to articulate and justify a point or a claim. That's what logic is. And when you're able to get good, solid arguments, then you're able to really motivate and really move those or influence those you're trying to influence. Now, you say, okay, well, I know what premises are. I know what conclusions are. And then I'm going to give you an assignment, which you have in your reading, just to make sure you understand what they are. And how do I understand them? How do I know them? Generally, especially at this level, most of us write in college, and coming out of high school, most of us write with glaring, what we call indicators. Most of us use words like because and since and due to the fact that, right? And those words, because, since, due to the fact that, for, words like that, F-O-R, those are what we call premise indicators. Meaning what follows that is the premise. Go get me some Kool-Aid out the refrigerator. That's not a true or false statement. So that's not even a proposition we need concern yourself about. But if somebody said, man, Kool-Aid is better than Crystal Light, what's your first question going to be? Well, why? How do you know that? Why do you say that? Then they're going to say, well, because, or since, or due to the fact that, or in light of the reasons, in light of the fact that, right? So that means I'm going to give you justifications that's going to serve as the reasoning behind what I say. Those are premises. Okay? You with me? You with me? Now, in this little short for a few minutes, what you have in your reading that you should remember is that you have to be able to distinguish a statement from a proposition. So that's why I should have probably said, or a sentence from a proposition. A sentence, like I said, can be anything, right? A sentence could be, shut up, right? It may not, the English folk might not like it, but hey, it's declarative, it's clear, folk know what you mean. Shut up now, right? That kind of stuff. But those aren't propositions. Remember, propositions are statements by which truth or falsity can be derived from. The table is green. Well, one might say that is by happenstance, and that's a statement of fact. Well, how do you know it's green? If I have to justify the greenness of it, then maybe we call that a proposition or a statement, right? Julius Bailey is the greatest professor in the world. Well, one might say that's just a statement of fact. Others might say, well, we need to justify that because I don't like the dude, frankly. And so then you would then create arguments, meaning you would have premises for that conclusion, and the better one wins, and the worse one gets kicked aside. Right? That's what we're doing here. And if we had the entire semester, man, we would be doing all kind of ways to do things like that. But we don't, so we're just going to keep moving. So, there are two types of arguments, right? There are two types of arguments, right? There is a deductive type, and then there's an inductive type. Right? These are the two types of arguments. So we know we have to have an argument in order to study for logic. We know what's constitutive of an argument. And now we know that, well, now I'm telling you there are two different types of arguments, right? So one type of argument is a deductive argument. A deductive argument, like even when I was in school, a deductive argument is as simple as, you know what, all cows eat grass, Elsa is a cow, and therefore Elsa eats grass, right? We know that. Right? That means that, and I learned a long time ago that basically when you go from a universal claim, all of something, to one of something, and that something is constitutive or affirmed, then we call that deduction. What am I saying? Well, I don't like to use this example, but it's popular. So if I go from a universal to a particular, we call that deduction. But that's not all the time true, but for this class, this short period of time, we can get away with this. So again, if all cows eat grass, right? That's universal. And then I particularize that Elsa is a cow. Then I must conclude, you'll see in logic in some of your readings, this line here. So sometimes you might see this little 3 dots in kind of a triangular function. That also signifies a conclusion that's coming. This line here is what you'll see a lot. All cows eat grass is a universal claim, a particular affirmation of one of these things, and then the particular conclusion, therefore, Elsa is a cow. Elsa eats grass, excuse me. Right? Universal to particular. Right? If everybody in the club is getting tipsy, as the song goes, then, and you hear that Julius is in the club, if the assertion of the claim is true, the universal claim is true, meaning everybody in the club getting tipsy, then my conclusion must follow. right? So, by definition, we say a deductive argument is an argument in which the conclusion must follow from the assumed truth of the premises. Premise or premises. All right? Highlight the word must follow in your notes. If it's true that all cows eat grass, and if it's true that Elsa's a cow, then it has to be true that Elsa eats grass, right? That's what we mean. Now, we like to say, especially here, when we give charitability, like I say, okay, we have to assume, because when we're listening to people talk, when we're reading something, we have to at least give the assumption that they know what they're talking about until proven otherwise. That's why we say, okay, if we assume the premises are true, does that conclusion have to follow? If it is the case, we call that deduction. Now, there are some other things we'll get into next lecture in terms of what if it's false, what if it's true, what if one of the things are true or false. You know, I might, at the very end, I might give you a quick breakdown, but for the most part, we're just giving you the big, broad strokes for this lecture. Deduction is a conclusion must follow from the strength of the premises. Right? If 2 plus 2 is 4, right? And 4 plus 4 is 8, right? Then 8 plus 8 is 16, right? The principles that guide the truth of 2 plus 2, most of us think those are universal principles. If God is all-knowing, right, and there is a pandemic in America, then God knows about it, or God knew about it, right? If we assume the truth of the universal, then we have to assume the truth of the particular, right? Induction. Inductive is another type of argument. 2 types: deductive, inductive. Right? 2 types. Inductive means, well, I'll give you a situation. So you go to your cousin's house to the barbecue. You eat some deviled eggs, and you get sick. And then somebody says to you next week, hey, you want to go to my cousin's house? To my cousin's house? She's making a nice spread. She even has some deviled eggs. And you say, oh, I can't eat deviled eggs because they make me sick. Well, you could be right. You certainly was right last week when you got sick. But there could be other factors, right, that had to do with you getting sick, or it could be the fact that your cousin can't cook, or your cousin has some dirty stuff in the pan, right? But my cousin, oh no, my cousin's a chef. My cousin got it going on. My cousin ain't your cousin, so my cousin deviled eggs ain't gonna make you sick. But you've concluded that you get sick by deviled eggs based on a particular situation. College students, y'all say it all the time. Right? Well, men or women, these college girls, these college guys, they ain't worth 2 cents. That's my claim. Well, why not? Because I dated 3 of them, and then they ain't worth 2 cents. Again, you made a conclusion. And you know what? The reality is you may be right. But you're not necessarily right. See the distinction? You may be right that deviled eggs make you sick, but not necessarily. It's possible. It's probable. It's possible that every guy on campus ain't worth 2 cents. It's possible that all the girls ain't worth 2 cents. Real story. So when I first moved to Ohio, I came from California, Illinois. And when I first moved here, I didn't have cable or anything. And so I was going to B-Dubs to watch the game. I moved here in the summer. And I was watching the basketball playoffs. It was like June, and I was watching the playoffs. And I met a girl at Buffalo Wild Wings. Shout out to my Buffalo Wild Wings crew if you're watching this video. I met a girl at Buffalo Wild Wings. She was cute. When I say she was cute. Boy. And, I started hollering at her. You know what I'm saying? Lo and behold, we got each other's numbers. We went out a couple of times. By the time the third time we went out, maybe about a week or so later, she asked me could she borrow $200. I was like, whatever, we dating. I had a little extra money, whatever. I said, cool. I let her borrow it. I said, when give it back? I give it back for payday. Payday come, she ain't give it back. Matter of fact, a few days in between, like we stopped talking to each other, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, yo, why come you don't call me no more? Yo, what's going on? Look, I don't think it's gonna work between us. Where's my money at? Well, I get it to you. To this day, 10 years later, I still ain't got it. But then that's whatever. I go back to B-Dubs a couple weeks later. I start liking B-Dubs, meet some people, meet some friends. I meet this gorgeous girl. And another gorgeous girl at B-Dubs. And hollering at her, I didn't think she'd give me time of day. Not that I'm not worth the time of day, but when I tell you she was fine. But I started talking to her. And, whatever, we started talking. I was a little cautious, but whatever, because the other girl made me mad, but I ain't gonna just give up on women because of that girl. So talking to her, we started dating, hanging out. I'm like, wow, she might even like me. Like, this is cool. Like, man, whatever. She kissed me a little, you know what I'm saying, And so, man, about 3-4 weeks later, Julius, baby, can I ask you a question? I'm like, what's up, boo? I mean, man, you so fine. You can ask me anything. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, so I got to move, right? And I was like, wondering if you could help me move. Now, those of you who know me know I'm lazy. So I'm like, look, baby girl, like, I ain't picking up a box. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, I got a PhD, and that means that I hire people to pick up boxes. Like, I can't do all that. But, I might be able to drive a truck, you know what I'm saying, if you got some homies that could pick up some boxes. But this brother, she's like, well, no, I got some people to help me. I just need some money to rent the truck. And so I'm thinking, well, she said, I got some, I just don't have a credit card. That makes sense. People have cash, don't have credit cards. I had a credit card. I'm like, man, plus this is my boo, and she fine. I'm like, cool, I'll rent it for you. Go rent the truck. She do a move, truck back. I called her next day. Like, hey, you need me to come on over, help you out? No, I'll call you back. I'm like, cool, she busy, she just moved in. Cool, whatever. She didn't call me back. Next day, she answered the phone. 2-3 days after, I'm like, what's going on for real? So I go over to the house, right? I know where she lived at because I drove the truck. So I go over to the house. I ring the doorbell. Dude answered the door. I'm like, I ain't tripped, because again, I'm logical. I know there's a lot of different reasons upon which this dude could be there. Could be brother, uncle, whatever. So I say, hey, is so-and-so there? Only I said so-and-so because she might be on Facebook right now, and then I'm about to embarrass her. So-and-so there? Yeah, who are you? I'm like, I'm Julius. And I'm like, so now I'm getting concerned. Like, I'm Julius. Like, can I speak to her? Now I got to take the PhD out of my name and put on the south side of Chicago. Like, yo, dude, where my girl at? So dude, who are you? I'm like, that's my girl. Like, I need to holler at my girl. Like, who are you? That ain't my girl. You ain't your girl. That's my fiance, fool. I'm like, what? I don't even speak French. What? So she come, what are you doing here? Oh, you a stalker. Well, he's such a sucker. Don't call the police. I'm like, the police? Stalker? Like, what? I'm like, are you serious? So I go to my car. I just got played. But a month later, I go back to P-Dubs. Kick it, blah, blah. I met another girl. She didn't go to P-Dubs, but she didn't work there. But she was going there. I seen her a couple of times. Start hollering at her, because again, if at first you don't succeed, pick yourself up and try again. That's how the song, right? So I'm like, I'm hollering at another chick. What's my point? My boy called me. Jew! What's up, man? How you like in Ohio? Like, it's cool, man. He said, man, I heard that all the women in Ohio, they beautiful. They cool. I'm like, man, these women in Ohio, gold diggers. He was like, what? I'm like, man, they gold diggers. Let me tell you the story. So I told him the story I told you, a little bit more detail. But I told you the story I told him. At the end of the conversation, he was like, damn, dog, I see what you're saying. I know now, I ain't gonna mess with no Ohio chicks. Now again, I could be right that all women in Ohio are gold diggers. But at the point at which I was asked, I only dated 3. Now maybe I might even have narrowed it down if I said 3 women who go and work at B-Dubs. But my boy was like, yeah, I feel you. And really, I was in my feelings, so I didn't think about the fact that ain't neither one of us acting logical. How you gonna feel me about women are gold diggers when I met 3 out of 3 million? Induction is not about mandatory conclusions. It's about probability. It's about possibility. And the stronger you can get people to think about the probability or the possibility, the stronger the inductive argument. So whereas deductive must follow, inductive might follow. The conclusion might follow. Based on probability, possibility. That's why we say a lot of our sciences